going on, guys? Anthony Bricks here. So today I've thought about doing a kind of interesting video that President Trump recently got voted for impeachment by the House of Representatives. So I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at some of the polls that show President Trump getting impeached and how much Americans view in favor or oppose of the impeachment. So I found this really interesting article by the Washington Post that kind of discusses this. So let's just kind of go over what the article says. So I want to scroll down that to this part that says after an initial rise that support stayed divided on impeaching and removing President Trump. And I think this is kind of a very clear indicator of how the country is right now. The country is very split on President Trump being impeached. But however, the split itself is not really that of a surprise. And I'll get into that in a second. But you see about 47% of the country is in favor, or excuse me, 47% of the country. No, yeah, I had it right. 43% of the country is opposed to it, and 47% support it, which both shows our plurality vote being underwater, which shows the country is still undecided on it in a way. Independents are also divided on whether to impeach President Trump. As I mentioned, 47% of the country is in favor of impeaching President Trump. 43% disapprove. Among independents, which is a core key voting bloc for 2020 and for 2016, independents 42% support the impeachment, where 44% disapprove. So again, you may see the disapprove being higher by 2 points and think that could be good news for President Trump. However, that being said, that's still a plurality of the vote, and that's a lot of the vote that's left. 42 was 44. That's what, 86%? So there's 14% left, either undecided or don't care. That's a big percentage of the independent voters. And honestly, we don't know how that's going to swing for President Trump or the Democrats in 2020. Only time will tell. But there's still a lot of ground to be made up on that. And in the coming months, we'll probably see some of that vote go which way or another. And among Republicans, this really isn't any new information, but Republicans disapprove of President Trump getting impeached 87% to 9%. And this this is pretty much in tune with what we see. This impeachment, regardless of your own personal opinions on the facts and what says, this is an all biased political impeachment. There's no other way around it. Republicans don't want Trump impeached. The Democrats really want President Trump impeached. They've been wanting President Trump impeached since the day he won the presidency. And these polls reflect it. 9% support impeaching President Trump, and among Republicans, 87% disapprove. The Democrats, almost the exact same results. 86% support impeachment, 8% disapprove impeachment or against it. These numbers are merely identical. This is literally all this is a political motivated impeachment. And I think for anyone, not just any Democrat, but for anyone to try and argue this is not all political, there's no argument for it. It's just set in stone. This is all political. And what's interesting, I chose this article over some other ones, or the Real Clear Politics Average, for instance. This talks about in some key general election states, some key swing states, that how impeachment's polling. And this actually is very interesting. President Trump getting impeached is actually underwater in a lot of these key battleground states. And 44% to 51%, that's big because this is the first impeachment in these states. I'm not gonna lie, President Trump needs the battleground states more than the Democrats do. Democrats can lose states like Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Nevada, Colorado. They can lose all these states and still win the election. And vice versa. They don't need to win the Rust Belt, the Democrats, if they can pick off maybe one of the Rust Belt states like Michigan or Pennsylvania or something, and then hold Florida. They pretty much have the election won. So President Trump, support for the impeachment is underwater, 44% to supporting it to 51% opposing it. That's not good news for the Democrats, and that's something definitely to keep an eye on for the 2020. So yeah, it just says here 44% average support the impeachment, 51% opposed. And these are average polls conducted throughout the states of Arizona, Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. And this is actually a flip from an average of national polls. See, it says here a flip from an average national polls that finds support for impeachment narrowly edging opposition 47 to 43. So support for President Trump getting impeached was actually higher before, and now this whole thing has unraveled. It's kind of flip flopped, and that President Trump getting impeached in these battleground states is now less popular than it was before. And that's definitely not good news for the Democrats. Now, of course, in 2020, impeachment's not going to be everything, but it's definitely still going to be in the back of a lot of Americans' minds. Make no mistake about it. Of course, policies and likability of the Democratic candidate plays into effect. President Trump, I feel like, is pretty much set in stone now. You either like President Trump or you don't like him. I mean, I think everyone kind of has an opinion on him now. I know a lot of people who like him are kind of afraid to say they like him, and a lot of people who don't like him are very vocal about it. But the Democrat candidates is kind of the wild card nominee we're waiting to see right now and to see who they nominate. That's pretty much what 2020 is waiting on. So yeah, right now swing states not looking too great with Democrats when it comes to impeachment. And however, getting on to President Trump, this is good news for President Trump. President Trump's approval rating actually hasn't really changed too much during this whole impeachment fiasco. If anything, his approval number has actually gone up since this has happened. Which you may be thinking, how is that possible? How could President Trump's approval rating possibly go up? And let me just say this: I'm of a generation. I wasn't alive during the Bill Clinton impeachments. That kind of gives you a message of how young I am. I wasn't alive for it, but Bill Clinton and his party, the Democratic Party, performed very well in the next election, and after, his approval numbers actually went up slightly during this whole fiasco because even though Bill Clinton's impeachment, I would argue, had more concrete, hard supporting facts and evidence to impeach Bill Clinton over President Trump did, the impeachments are almost identical in terms of party line. In Bill Clinton's case, the Democrats were going to side with Bill Clinton 100%, and it looked like Republicans, while there were just causes, it was merely Republicans going after Bill Clinton, and no Democrats really willing to do the same. And now 2019 going to 2020, it's almost the exact same thing, where Democrats are merely going after President Trump and not one Republican is willing to do that. So it's all partisan, it's all political, make no mistake, but President Trump's approval rating has actually looked pretty good. Gallup has it around 43%, 43% for President Trump. Quinnipiac, which is a very liberal, Democratic, skewed polling firm or polling school, has President Trump around 40%. Now, here's the thing about these polls. These are national average polls, and obviously national polls, I try and stress this very carefully. There are certain polls you need to keep an eye on in determining presidential elections. National polls and general election polls are great and all fun. What you have to look at are the state-by-state polls. That's what really gives you key indicators. And at this point right now, President Trump's approval rating, if it's really what Gallup says is at 43%, that's actually not that bad. Because if he's really at 43%, don't forget the hidden Trump vote is still out there. It's not like it's gone like into the woods, it'll never be seen again. The hidden Trump vote is still there. And there's still a vote that I think is going to be underrated in 2020, which is I don't like Trump's personality, and I don't like some of the things he says and does, but the economy is doing good, and a lot of people are better off, and that will cause some more people, swing voters, to vote for Trump that maybe didn't last time, or did and were having second thoughts about it and will ultimately side with him again. So President Trump's actually nationally in pretty good standing for re-election, and if the impeachment polls are true, that a lot of swing voters in swing states are anti-impeaching President Trump and may turn out to vote for President Trump, that could be very good news for President Trump as well. And so what's President Trump's actual national approval rate right now? I don't think it's 40%. I don't even think it's 43%, honestly. I think the country is so divided that I seriously doubt there will ever be a president whose approval rating is over 52% because the country is such politically divided right now. Like, you would have to have like literally a perfect president who does one thing each side loves like every other week to get an approval rating over 50. So I don't think Trump's is over 50 right now. I would honestly take a play out of Mitt Romney's book right now where I'd say 47% of the country probably approves of President Trump and likes what President Trump is doing. That's 47% basically of Republicans, and kind of half of independents support President Trump. Meanwhile, 47% of the country, which is the Democrats and half of the independents and Green Party Democrats and stuff like that, probably disapprove of President Trump. And there's that little gray area of 6% of the rest of independents who truly maybe are undecided or aren't telling people what they're going to do in 2020. That's probably what Trump's main target is. So I'd say his approval to disapproval is pretty split, around 47-47. And President Trump's actually, that's not terrible for re-election if indeed his approval rating is either tied or a plurality. That could be very good for him because that means he still has some room to grow. And President Trump is a much bigger war chest to spend from all the money that he and the RNC has raised compared to the Democratic candidates. The GOP has massively outraised the Democrats in the past few months, especially through this whole impeachment thing. Politically speaking, no president wants to be impeached. Impeachment is never good for a president. It ruins their reputation. It ruins their kind of trust in a lot of people. But fundraising wise for the RNC, this might be the best thing that could have happened to President Trump because President Trump's numbers have been through the roof. And I don't think the impeachment is really hurting President Trump the way a lot of people in the media thought it would. If anything, it's kind of galvanizing a lot of silent conservative voters who may have had their personality second thoughts on President Trump, as I kind of mentioned before. I mean, look, I'll just put it plainly here. President Trump's personality-wise, it makes sense why a lot of people doesn't like his personality. That's pretty much what Trump is. There's people who love his personality, who kind of like his high school, college, F everything going on personality. And then there's also people who thinks this kid, he acts like he's in middle school or high school. And we need a president who acts responsibly and treats the office with respect and dignity. And President Trump's policies, I would argue, are doing that, are treating it with respect and dignity. But I can see how his attitude and persona definitely isn't. So that's where I think most Americans are split on President Trump. And that kind of shows the impeachment, that the people who are more in favor of President Trump's policies and think he's doing much better in that regard are the Republicans who are unwilling to budge and unwilling to say he should be impeached. And the Democrats who are impeaching him are merely impeaching him, I think, off of they don't like what his style, what his persona is. They don't like how he's very brash and off the cuff and can't really be controlled. And that's what I think is definitely a key driving force in this impeachment. However, bottom line, to sum up the video, if you skip to the end and don't want to watch all like 13, 14 minutes of this video, President Trump's approval ratings have actually increased or stayed steady during this impeachment proceedings. Political impeachment is pretty steady among both parties. I mean, overwhelmingly Republicans are anti-impeachment. Overwhelmingly Democrats are pro-impeachment. Independents are kind of evenly split, and there's still a lot of undecided vote left on that regard. But fundraising-wise, this is definitely helping out President Trump in a kind of a surprise twist that not a lot of people expected. And this could end up playing benefit for President Trump politically down the road, which is kind of unthinkable, but it actually might do it. That might be the case. So thank you so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe and smash the bell icon for more content. I'd really appreciate you subscribing and liking the video, helping the channel grow. My goal, I don't know if it's going to happen because it's already Christmas time, but I was hoping to try and get to 100 subscribers by the end of 2019, the first day of 2020 and New Year's. Right now we're at 66 subscribers, so 34 in about a week, a little over a week. It's going to be tough to do, but you know what? If we can do it, now would be a great time to pull off a Christmas miracle. So hopefully you'll help me out in that regard. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.